Over the weekend of the 7th and 8th of September in 2024, the first annual Goulburn Model Railway Exhibition was held at the Volia Stadium in Goulburn, New South Wales. And this was presented by the Georges River Model Railway Club. With 50 layouts and trade stands in attendance, we're going to take a look at some of the layouts. Exhibition reports and other videos on this channel are made possible by the Patreons on Patreon. And if you are interested in gaining early access to videos whilst supporting their production, head over to my Patreon linked in the description below. And of course, if you are new here, don't forget to be subscribed so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos that come out regularly. So let's start with a layout that hasn't been on the exhibition circuit for a long time. Orbost 1981 in 1 in 500th scale by Paul Blake. The Orbost layout is based on the smallest commercially available scale in the world, T-gauge, with a track width of 3mm. This scale runs on 4.5 volt, tiny 3x6mm motors. Paul's initial thoughts when going with this tiny scale was how small can I build a model railway, to imagine the scenic scope that can be achieved by modelling one of his favourite locations. He was always fascinated by branch lines, especially from Bairnsdale to Orbost, with its endless gradients, massive bridges, viaducts and stunning scenery in its 100-kilometre stretch. The trains featured on this layout belong to members operating the layout and cover it from late steam to when the line closed. Alp Grum is inspired by, but not an exact copy, of the original Swiss Alp Grum railway station located at the Brewing Barn, which runs south into Italy. This HOM model features meter gauge, where the line negotiates very tight corners and extremely steep gradients below a station. It runs trains typical of the region in a spring setting. This was also one of my favourite layouts at the exhibition. It was beautifully crafted and something that we don't generally get to see here in Australia. Waterfall is a station located 38 kilometres south from Sydney's Central Station, just on the outskirts of the metropolitan area on the Illawarra line. This exhibition layout is a representation of Waterfall Station and Yard in the 1960s. Sydney's electrified network didn't reach Waterfall until 1980, and all the buildings and structures on this layout are scratch-built from original plans and photographs. This layout can be operated either using DC or DCC. However, at exhibitions the layout is operated with DCC, and the track and turnouts are all Pico Code 83. You can find out more information on this layout on the Illawarra Model Railway Association's website. Billabong Flat represents a branch line in the extreme remote country Victoria in the early 1970s. This layout follows Victorian Railways practice and depicts the end of a branch line with a small station yard, goods shed and engine shed. And the layout measures 1.6 metres long by 600mm wide and features a traverser which is used as the fiddle yard. The layout was designed to fit in the back of a hatchback for simple transportation, and the layout demonstrates one of the many advantages to N-scale and the possibility to provide interesting operations in a small space. Moruya from the New South Wales N-scale group. Although being a real town on the south coast of New South Wales, never saw a rail service. The layout was built as an idea of a what-if scenario. The town is surrounded by rich dairy country, as evidenced by the large creamery at the station and the abundance of cows on the surrounding hillsides. As part of the privatisation of the railways, both New South Wales and South Coast and Monaro railway engines can be seen hauling freight and passenger trains. This layout is operated under DCC control, meaning each train can be operated independently on the same track. And because of this, one operator can run the single track layout. Leask is an Australian N-scale layout, based on a typical New South Wales country town. The butter factory on this layout is based at one found at Albion Park in the Wollongong area, and all buildings on this layout have been scratch built, and the rolling stock on this layout is typical of what you might see travelling around the railways of New South Wales. Gresham from the Sydney N-scale Club. Gresham is located on the main Western Line, west of Bathurst. At Gresham, the Western Line changes from single track to double track operations, and this is an excellent vantage point to watch trains roll by. The layout is based on the hamlet, as it existed on the 19th of May 1982, just after a rainstorm has passed. The trains operating on this layout consist of both ready-to-run and kit-built locomotives and rolling stock. The track is Pico Code 55 in the visible section, with Tomex Code 80 in the storage yard, and the layout is operated by DCC. And if you are interested in the Sydney N-scale Model Railway Club, they operate a number of layouts from their club room in Rockdale, Sydney. Muttama by Peter Bayer. Muttama has been prototypically modelled to reflect the former rail yard that once served the small riverina country town of Muttama, which is located on the Cootamundra to Tumut branch line. The station building and gatekeeper's cottage are mostly scratch-built in HO scale from the original plans, whereas the goods shed is a 50% 3D printed and 50% scratch-built building. The section of Muttama is 2.4 metres in length and 40 centimetres wide, with a Haskell backscene picture to help enhance the scenery of the layout. The rail line through Muttama opened to traffic in June 1886, and the rail infrastructure was kept unchanged until the 1970s, which allows the display of prototypical trains from early steam through to the diesel era without looking out of place. Micro Madness is a collection of small micro layouts, which show the world what model railways can be constructed in a limited space. They're easily achievable for beginners at any level of experience. All you need is an idea.
Yeah. So there's 25 penguins if you can count them all. Penguins bobbing all the way.
This is pretty good. Yeah. Yeah, that's what it probably is. No. Oh.
This has had a lot of interest. Everyone can move it up the streets. Turning up their slavers or things like that. I said, we don't think that.
Sandford by Philip and Ross James. Sandford is a fictitious town between Newcastle upon Tyne and York, which sits along the east coast of England. The line is busy with a mixture of traffic including mixed and express goods, as well as express and local passenger traffic to nearby branch lines. Both full and empty coal trains travel to and from the collieries, which are scattered around the York countryside. The layout is set in 1946 to 1964, from post-war Britain LNER through to nationalisation in 1948, to British Railways at the end of steam, to the rise of diesel power in the mid-60s. This layout took 6 months to build in 2012. The baseboard is plywood with styrofoam and plaster landscape, and static grass and scatterings for cover, while plastic trees and a mixture of kits and resin cast buildings were used for the town and railway infrastructure.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Wan Chai Depot by Mark Peterson. This depot is a small HO layout depicting the Hong Kong tramway system. The layout comprises of a street scene in Hong Kong and attempts to replicate the chaos and complexity of this wonderful setting. A single track with trams travelling back and forth, a junction and a depot give the chance of plenty of movement amongst authentic models of Hong Kong vehicles and buildings. A set of operating traffic lights also keeps the operators on their toes. Possibly one of the most interesting layouts of the exhibition was Wansbeck. This 2mm scale layout represents a colliery village in County Durham and is set in the period of 1957 to 1962. Some of the structures are based on prototype locations, and the layout has no connection to any place in particular and is purely a figment of the imagination and a nostalgic glance into the past. The layout has been designed to be viewed from and what is described as a normal viewing distance, which in 2mm scale can be anywhere between 15 inches and 2.5 feet. The stock is a mixture of kit and modified ready-to-run models. So possibly the most interesting aspect of this layout is it wasn't built in Australia, it was built in the UK and has been on the exhibition circuit over there and in Europe for the last few years, but now resides here in Australia. One of my favourite layouts, and it was fantastic to see it again, is Downtown Spur by Gary Rumming. The Downtown Spur was inspired by the work of Lance Midheim, and his layout, the Miami Downtown Spur. Gary has chosen a few key features on the Spur that gives the layout its place, with 90% of the structures on the layout are scratched and the other 10% are kit batched. The attention to detail on this layout, and not to mention the almost endless operational value that it has, is outstanding. Gary has done an amazing job on this, and if you do want to see more of it, you can join his Facebook group, which I'll have linked in the description below. Trouble Brewing Co. is built to a scale of GN15, meaning that G scale, which is 1 to 24 proportions, and the track is a gauge of 16.5mm, which is the same as HO, representing a 15-inch gauge in this scale. The layout is very much a freelance what-if representation of a narrow gauge tramway to serve a bootleg distillery high in the mountains to move contraband product down to a more accessible location. A fitting layout to be at the Goulburn exhibition was Goulburn by the Guildford Model Railway Club. This HO scale exhibition layout was constructed and operated by the Guildford Model Railway Group. The layout was first exhibited in June 2016, although most of the major items are completed and there's still a little bit more work to be done. This layout is of course based on Goulburn Railway Station and its immediate precinct. The layout models a section of the line from Blackshaw Road level crossing at the Sydney end of Goulburn to the Braidwood Overbridge, which crosses the line beyond the southern end of the station. The layout features many important items to this area and is modelled to represent the area mid-1980s. They've tried to capture as much of the large and complex facilities as they can, although some selective compression has been required. The trains that run on this layout are typical of those that ran through Goulburn from the steam era to the start of the candy colour scheme era. The layout consists of 6 separate modules, and the framework is plywood, resting on aluminium A-frame legs. The layout is operated by conventional DC block control, and a separate controller for each of the up and down main lines for continuous operation, and a third controller that controls the sidings. And with that, there's a 14-track storage yard in the rear that provides ample storage for running of many different trains. For more information, you can check out their website at gmrg.info.
Oh yeah, where it comes. Yeah. Right. Right. eventually it'll appear.
Binalong by the Epping Model Railway Club. This layout depicts railway operations on the main South Line in New South Wales, in the region of Binalong to Illinong Creek, where the station building was once used and the tracks were still intact. Although most of the structures at this location still remain, they are no longer in use. The trains featured on this layout belong to members operating the layout and cover a time period from late steam to present day.
Oh, always.
Glasson is a 7mm scale layout based on Western New South Wales branch line operations during the transition period from steam to diesel. The operational concept is a linear shunting layout, and operations is based on a sequence of prototypical scenarios. The group operating this layout opted for a fictitious location, based on a condensed prototype plan from Western New South Wales. The branch line layout with an emphasis on shunting operations. And the viewing public are invited to enjoy the prototypical operation and the realism that 7mm scale modelling achieves. You can listen to the sounds of slow-moving locomotives and watch the realism that the movement of the trains that O-Scale has to offer, and the slack in the couplings and the interior of the wagons to illustrate a more realistic operational scenario. And a new layout to the exhibition circuit, Nordic Coast, which was a Markland Z-gauge layout. This layout also had something different, which was animation, with the ship rolling back and forward in some treacherous waves. As well as all those excellent layouts, there were also several other layouts which unfortunately I ran out of time to shoot on the day that I visited this exhibition. However, they've all been featured in other videos before. As well as that, there was also modelling clinics. And of course, there was a large amount of traders and manufacturers. And they were Fortress Trains, Palace Hobbies, the Model Railroad Craftsman, Eureka Models, IDR Models, RW Hobby, Kieran Ryan Models, Roscoe's Models, Vision N Scale, Matt's Ballast, On Track Models, Kazula Hobbies, Railway Coins, Freight N. You also had Lyndon's Trains, sponsor of Australian Model Railway News, Buck and Bull Model Trains, Gopher Models and Badger Bits, Ixion Models, West Edge 3D, Wombat Models, and Decision Models with their large trade stand. And to really add to the exhibition, on the Sunday, East Coast Railway Heritage ran a sold-out special from Sydney to Goulburn and return with 42105 and X54, which we happened to catch at Bundanoo. Now in 2025, this exhibition will be back on again. So if you're keen to find out more about this exhibition, you can follow them on social media and on their website, or of course keep up to date with everything model railways in Australia with my monthly model railway news on this channel. And I think I might add, as a personal note, as this was their first exhibition, I think it was certainly worth the trip all the way from Melbourne to visit. Goulburn is a fantastic railway town, so making a weekend out of this exhibition was easy, with the Roundhouse Museum just up the road, and of course a high frequency of trains in that area. It's an excellent way to spend a weekend, and we'll certainly be back next year. So I hope you all enjoyed taking a look at the first annual Goulburn Model Railway Exhibition. And for more information, everything that I've mentioned will be linked in the notes in the description below. Once again, thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Hooroo!